Two young friends stand side by side. One is getting ready to leave for a faraway place. The other, a little sad, asks if they won't be able to play together anymore. The departing friend replies that he doesn't know. Despite the uncertainty, they both promise to be lifelong friends and vow that even if they are apart, their friendship will endure. 7 years later, Kirishima Hayato stands in front of the school building, recalling that promise. As he enters the classroom, he introduces himself, telling his classmates that he is from a rural town called Sukinos, where deer, monkeys, and even boars roam within the village. He says it would be fantastic if they could teach him many things. With a laugh, he thinks that it is ironic that he ends up moving to the same city where Nikaido Haruki moved back then. He wonders if he might get to reunite with him somewhere. The teacher asks about the empty seat next to Nikaido. Hayato's thoughts drift to his childhood friend, but he realizes the girl sitting there shares the same name. He expresses his hope that she'll look out for him, and she responds with a smile, promising to do the same. After class, a group of boys gathers around him, curious about his introduction. One asks about the remoteness of his village. Given the wildlife he mentioned, Hayato explains that his father's job transfer brought him to the city and describes Sukinos as a rural village nestled in the mountains, where animals outnumber people and buses are scarce. The boys chuckle at his admission of being new to city life. They tease him about having a girlfriend back home, and Hayato jokes that finding someone his age was a challenge. The boys ask about his friendships and hobbies, and he shares that he enjoyed playing games alone or helping with farm work. He mentions a close friend from his past, nostalgic about their bond. Recalling past adventures, Hayato shares stories of diving into rivers and hiking mountains with his friend, describing him as a bit of a wild card. Nikaido suddenly snaps her pen, drawing everyone's attention. Concerned, they ask if she's okay, and she smiles, attributing the broken pen to a defect. She playfully scolds Hayato for his description, saying it's unkind to portray his friend in such a way, but he replies that it's fine as he is his best friend. Seeing her expression, Hayato wonders what to do, worried he may have left a bad impression. Just then, the teacher mentions a handout from a previous lesson, and Hayato looks puzzled. Nikaido shows him her notes and suggests he move closer to get a better look. As he does, he whispers that he needs to talk to her, but just then, someone calls her away and she has to leave. A classmate leans in, commenting on Nikaido's appeal. Hayato clarifies that he wasn't trying to mock her, he genuinely thinks she's impressive. The student admires Nikaido, noting she's gorgeous, compassionate, and sharp-witted. Hayato thinks she's the perfect student, graceful, charming, and beautiful, with the same name as his best friend, except for the fact that she's a girl. During lunch, peers invite him to eat with them, but he declines, choosing instead to explore the campus and locate the canteen. As he strolls through the hallway, he's taken aback by the groups of people, having rarely encountered such crowds outside of celebrations. At the canteen, he's astonished by the sheer number of students. Opting to head to the courtyard instead, he decides it would be wise to pack his lunch from the next day onwards. There, he notices a girl inspecting the plants, worried that the soil might be hindering their growth. Hayato approaches her and inquires about the plants. He correctly identifies the zucchini, eggplant, peppers, and corn, and asks if she's trying to promote pollination. Hayato shares his expertise on pollination and pruning, impressing the girl with his knowledge. He attributes his understanding to his experience with farm work back in his village. After inquiring about the gardening group, he learns that it's indeed where they are. Nikaido arrives, informs the girl, Midake-san, about the fertilizer, and then turns to him. She teases him about potentially flirting with the girl on his first day, asking if he's drawn to that type of person. The playful exchange catches him off guard, leaving him to respond. Hayato stands up, assuring her he's not hitting on Midake, but rather finds her reminiscent of someone he knows. He likens her to the sheep from Old Man Gen-san's farm, and they both chuckle. Nikaido shares the tale of how the sheep were meant to control weeds, but ended up devouring the vegetables instead. She agrees, teasing that Midake's frazzled demeanor and fluffy hair make her look like one of those sheep. As they laugh, she excitedly pats him on the back, and he asks her to hold back. Just then, someone calls Nikaido away, and she departs with a smile, leaving him in thought. He recalls his childhood friend's habit of excitedly patting him on the back when they were kids. Later in class, he can't shake the feeling that Nikaido reminds him of his childhood friend. After class, his classmates invite him to karaoke, framing it as a welcome party. Hayato hesitates, unsure how to respond since he's never been to karaoke before. The boys pressure Hayato to join them, but Nikaido intervenes, reminding him of her promise to show him around the school. The boys look on with a tinge of jealousy, muttering that they're not thrilled about Nikaido taking care of the new student. She takes Hayato's bag, leading him out of the scene. As they stroll hand in hand, he wonders where they're headed. He feels a sense of delight, thinking it's serendipitous that they met again at this school. She playfully keeps the destination a secret, teasing him with a smile. He observes that despite some changes, she's still the same person at heart, kind and caring. Upon arrival, he hesitates at the entrance, but Nikaido reassures him they're alone at her place. She dashes upstairs, telling him to wait for a moment, and returns quickly, apologizing for the brief wait. In a cozy room, she removes her socks, suggesting he do the same to cool off, given the warm atmosphere. As they sit together, Nikaido asks about a previous comment Hayato made, her expression curious. He becomes flustered, apologizes, and asks her to disregard it, trying to change the subject. As they sit together, he reflects on their unique understanding, where favors aren't tracked as debts. She nostalgically recalls their past encounters, wondering how many times they shared such moments. He playfully reminds her of her own debts, and she acknowledges them with a sly smile. They share a laugh, and he accuses her of cheating. She teasingly asks if her appearance gives it away, explaining that life's circumstances have shaped her. He jokes that she's a monster, then laughs and apologizes, requesting she add it to his tab. Spotting an old video game, he is surprised she still has it. He reveals he still owns the game, and she proposes they play for nostalgia's sake, wagering that the loser will owe a favor. He calls the bet cheap, but they begin playing. During the game, she questions the timing of a lucky item, and he attributes it to his good behavior. After a fun-filled afternoon, he prepares to leave. She walks him to the door, smiling warmly and saying welcome back from her perspective. He notices her smile remains unchanged over the years, still radiant and genuine. As he steps inside, he announces his arrival and her sister welcomes him. However, he can't help but glance at her sister's shorts, looking a bit flustered. As he walks by, he asks Himeko if he can take a look around. She asks what he's interested in seeing and then goes back to her phone. He notices she's just as engrossed in her device as her friend was. He inquires about their father's whereabouts, and she mentions he's visiting their mother at the hospital. When he asks about dinner, she tells him to take care of it since she's occupied. Watching her fingers fly across her screen, he's reminded of her pre-move anxiety about fitting in. She had been determined to research and hide her country roots, desperate to avoid being seen as unsophisticated. He recalls her concerns about being judged. He heads to the kitchen, commenting that honesty about her background would have been the best approach. He rummages through the fridge to find something for dinner. After cooking, he presents the meal to her. Her face lights up, and she remarks that his cooking is, as always, perfectly suited for enjoying with a drink. As they dine together, she shares some thrilling news with his brother, inquiring about her discovery. She's found a convenient rice polisher nearby, which catches his attention. He asks her to elaborate, and she shows him on her phone, highlighting its proximity to the nearest station, a mere 10-minute journey. He's impressed by the convenience. Her gaze falls upon his beaming smile, and she wonders if something pleasant has occurred. He reveals that he's encountered Haruki at school, and her eyes light up with surprise. She asks if he's referring to their friend Haru-chan, and he confirms it's the same person, mentioning they even share adjacent seats in class. Her excitement grows, and she requests more information about Haruki. He describes her as unchanged, yet notes that he's already accumulating favors. She responds warmly, expressing delight that their bond remains strong, while also observing that Haruki appears more mature. He assures her that they'll meet soon. The following morning, Himeko rushes towards him, visibly upset, and asks why he didn't wake her up. He replies that he could have, but just checked the time instead. She glances at the clock and realizes that even if she hurries, she'll likely be late. He reassures her that she has ample time and reminds her that school is now much closer than it was back home. She smiles and notices the lunchbox, inquiring about its contents. He explains that it's a bento, made by adding omelet rolls to yesterday's leftovers. He mentions that he prepared it after seeing the crowded cafeteria the previous day. After a brief chat, they both head out to school. As they step outside, they're greeted by the warm weather. They part ways to attend their respective schools. At school, he visits the garden club, where Midake is caring for the plants. He says good morning to her, and she initially startles, then recognizes him as the person from the day before. He asks about the flowers, wondering if she's been pollinating them, given their current bloom. He sits beside her and suggests a small brush would help. She doesn't have one, so he explains how to identify female and male blossoms. He shows her how to remove petals and gently transfer pollen from the stamens to the pistils. As they work, she marvels at the process, realizing vegetables need more care than she thought. She's fascinated by how pollen transfer leads to fruit development. Her expression turns somber as she reflects on the fact that vegetables are living things that are ultimately eaten. He acknowledges her point, and she becomes lost in thought. As she sits there, she starts to feel embarrassed thinking about plant reproduction, and her face grows flushed. Hayato notices her discomfort and tells her to calm down. Just then, Haruki arrives and asks what's happening. Noticing Midakei's red face, both Hayato and Midakei try to explain, but struggle to find the right words. Midakei suddenly excuses herself and hurries away. Hayato calls out to her, and she responds with a playful wink, joking that she felt like a startled animal. She bursts into laughter, and Hayato asks how long she's been there. She explains that she arrived mid-conversation and was curious, so she snuck a peek. She teases him about eavesdropping, and Haruki chimes in, winking that she needs to maintain her composure. He adds with another wink that she can relax around him. She smiles, agreeing that she can be herself with friends. She prompts him to head to class, noting they're already late. As she walks beside him, she gets close to his back, and he asks what's bothering her. She responds briefly, saying it's nothing, and remarks on why she's the one looking up at him now. He teases her about being childish, and she explains she used to be taller. After class, a girl approaches her and asks for help with an English assignment. She agrees to assist. Hayato watches her from his seat, thinking she's a high-achieving student. He recalls her mentioning that life circumstances affected her current situation. A classmate, Mori, introduces himself, mentioning Nikaido's popularity. He comments on the challenges of fitting in after transferring, and Hayato responds casually. Mori says he's not interested in Nikaido, citing that she's out of his league and he has a girlfriend. Mori implies he isn't the only one interested, but Nikaido's an exception. As Mori leaves, Hayato considers avoiding Nikaido at school due to her different persona. He wonders about her facade, but feels it's necessary to maintain their friendship. Haruki draws near Hayato and requests his company for an instant. The surrounding boys begin murmuring, speculating about a possible outing, with one remarking on whether he's her match. She inquires if Hayato understands what she's referring to, and he recalls their prior discussion about the floral arrangement. She verifies it's about the floral arrangement and smiles, eager to complete the task promptly. He concurs, and she reminds him to bring his satchel. The other boys react with excitement, and Mori makes a jest about facing a challenge. Hayato responds lightheartedly, joking about giving Mori a hard time. As they stroll together, he inquires about the location, and she discloses it's her private haven. She explains that it's typically unoccupied, used solely for storing papers, making it a serene getaway. The spot also serves as a refuge for her, providing a sense of solitude. She reveals to him that she stumbled upon the spot by accident and happens to have the key. He expresses concern, asking if it's really okay. She smiles and assures him that as long as no one discovers it, it's fine, suggesting they take a seat. As they sit down, he inquires about the reason for bringing him there. She hesitates, asking if he'll laugh, and he responds that it depends on what she says. She warns him that if he laughs, it'll be a debt owed. Then she confesses that it's always been her dream to share lunch with a friend. Her expression turns melancholic as she emphasizes the importance of this wish. She explains that she's usually aloof because eating with others often led to conflicts in the past, so she's accustomed to eating alone. He responds by suggesting she consider a new dream, then pulls out a lunchbox from his bag and proposes that they meet there for lunch whenever possible. He asks if this promise suits her, and she leans in, excitedly agreeing. As they make the promise, she initially invades his personal space but then creates distance. This moment marks the beginning of a new connection between them. At home, Hayato is cleaning up when his sister walks in, and he suggests they get to work. She mentions their father is visiting their mother again today, and he notes he won't be eating with them. His sister complains about being the middleman and asks when he will get his own phone. He apologizes for the trouble. They check the fridge and find it's nearly empty. He says they're out of food, and his sister suggests heating up frozen items. However, she then asks for his famous giant burgers, making a cute face and tugging on his shirt. He agrees, but says they'll need to buy ingredients first. His sister offers to help, and they head to the store. Back home, he puts on an apron and assigns tasks. He'll prep the mushrooms, and his sister will chop the veggies. As she works, she comments on the high cost of the vegetables, making the burgers pricey. He agrees, reminiscing about how their neighbors used to give them fresh produce. After cooking, they sit down to eat, and his sister raves about the burger, saying it's the first thing he ever made for her. She teases him about looking forward to the next time, winking, and he suggests she learn to make it herself. She jokes about being good at frozen and instant burgers, and he playfully teases her about it. The following day at school, Hayato participates in a soccer match with his peers, crediting his physical conditioning to his farm work experience. Mori takes the ball from him, commenting that despite his athletic ability, he's not savvy enough to evade a clever fake. After the game, Mori praises Hayato's multifaceted skills, and Hayato shares that this is his inaugural experience playing team sports. He explains that in his rural hometown, they frequently lack sufficient players to field a team. Mori laughs and gazes over at a cluster of students. As Hayato notices a buzz among the students, he asks Mori what's going on. Mori jokes that the symbol of success has arrived. Curious, Hayato asks who he means, and his eyes are drawn to Nikaido. She's confidently playing a game, surrounded by admiration. He hears students talking about her speed and skill, even pointing out that she's up against members of the basketball team. Watching her, Hayato thinks she's putting on quite a show, clearly talented. He reflects that Nikaido has always stood out. Whether it's playing games, overcoming obstacles, or collecting things, she does everything with style. Mori interrupts his musings, inquiring if Hayato finds Nikaido impressive. Mori adds that aside from her exceptional skills, she also possesses a striking physique. Hayato glances over at her and cautions himself to maintain a composed demeanor. As he wonders if she's aware of his gaze, he decides to depart, citing his unease with crowds and claiming he's just a simple rustic. Mori chuckles and teases that it's Hayato's misfortune. In their private sanctuary, she boasts about her performance, and he acknowledges her impressive display. She claims to have gained an advantage over him, and he queries the nature of this lead. She clarifies it's a rivalry to captivate the audience, and he jests about her showmanship. She inches closer, prodding his chest with her finger, emphasizing their disparity. She asks if his physique is due to conditioning or being male. He restrains her, citing ticklishness, and she giggles. She solicits his opinion on her theatricality, and he says it fits her persona. She retrieves a drink from her bag, and he asks if she always consumes that beverage. She confirms her drink habit, explaining it's a convenient way to get essential nutrients. She mentions buying them daily from the nearby convenience store. He pulls out a lunchbox, and she inquires about the food. He reveals they're rice croquettes, made the previous day for their physical education class. He shares the recipe, then proposes a trade, half her onigiri for his croquettes. She samples one, praising its flavor and the cheese. She asks about the cheese brand, and he reveals he made it himself. She's surprised, realizing he's been preparing all his bento boxes. Her expression turns somber as she comments on the 7-year time frame. Glancing at the time, she urges him to hurry, saying their lunch break is over. After class, the girls discuss popular TV dramas and gossip about the actors, with Hayato listening in. When asked for her opinion, she falls silent, and Hayato notices her unease, thinking she's not familiar with such conversations. To help her out, Hayato loudly mentions that someone in the hallway is calling her name, gesturing towards the storage room and suggesting she should hurry. She takes the cue, apologizes to her friends, and excuses herself, citing an urgent matter. Once she's alone with Hayato in her secret spot, she thanks him for the rescue. She asks him why girls enjoy discussing romantic interests and celebrity gossip. Hayato replies that it's just something girls tend to do. Mentioning that Hamiko also enjoys watching similar shows, she expression turns melancholic, and she shares a past experience from middle school where a misunderstanding occurred due to such discussions, hinting that boys often fuel these kinds of rumors. He chuckles at her story, prompting her to clarify with a hint of annoyance that she's referring to someone else. He teases her, saying that being popular can be tough, and she agrees, admitting her discomfort with romantic conversations. He playfully ruffles her hair, but she quickly stops him, fussing over her hairstyle. He reveals that he often uses this tactic to divert conversations with Himiko. She asserts her individuality, refusing to let him do the same to her. As he looks at her, he finds her momentarily endearing. Suddenly, they hear voices outside and exchange a frightened glance. Peeking out, they spot a couple kissing, and upon being seen, they both duck back, giggling and teasing each other about their flustered reactions. Afterward, she reiterates her inexperience with romantic matters, and he humorously agrees, saying he's not exactly an expert either. The next day, he browses miniature food toys at the mall when he spots Haruki. Surprised to see her, he comments on the unexpected encounter. She sits down, examines a toy box, and reads the label "Uncover the Dino Fossil." She teases him about his unusual hobby of collecting peculiar rocks. He confirms her observation, explaining he's in the middle of shopping for supplies. She mentions creating a diorama using the Showa Dagashi series as he prepares to leave. Intrigued, he asks if she's serious. She shows him the diorama on her tablet, revealing an old-fashioned candy store scene. He marvels at the details and asks how she achieved the miniature landscape. She credits the 100 yen store for materials like planks, clay, and colored powder, and reveals she used these to craft the entire scene. He's stunned, exclaiming that 100 yen stores are incredible, thinking they're mythical. She responds with irritation, questioning what exactly he's surprised about. He clarifies that she's talented in creating miniatures with small toys. She shares her experience, mentioning her desire for an ice cream freezer but facing challenges in finding suitable materials. She then mentions a nostalgic vending machine series, and he thinks she's pulling him into a rabbit hole of toy enthusiasm. She asks if he's interested in buying anything, specifically the Countryside Festival and Stall series, which she finds amazing. He intervenes, suggesting they return to shopping, and escorts her away from the toy section. After shopping as they leave the mall, he jokes about being rescued from her toy obsession. He takes the shopping bags from her, assuring her he'll carry them, and mentions the perishable goods inside require haste. She hurries after him, and he inquires about her shopping habits. Upon reaching her place, she instructs him to leave the bags at the entrance due to the locked doors. As he prepares to leave, she requests his contact information, and he's hesitant to share it. He apologizes, revealing he doesn't own a smartphone, which leaves her astonished and labels him a dummy. At home, Himiko expresses frustration to Hayato about her unruly hair on rainy days, which becomes frizzy and flat. Hayato responds lightheartedly, mentioning he enjoys rainy days for the abundance of water. She reminds him they're no longer in a rural setting. She mentions the weather forecast predicts afternoon rain, advising him to bring a portable umbrella. When Hayato asks about the source of this info, she assures him the app is reliable. He comments on the convenience of such technology, and she finds it unusual that he's showing interest. He shares that Haruki scolded him for not owning a smartphone, and she explains that having one is essential in today's world. She compares smartphones to essential appliances like refrigerators for every household and tractors for farmers, emphasizing their commonality. Her tone turns stern as she scolds him for not owning one, calling him an anomaly. She mentions that even in rural areas with poor reception, these devices are valuable. She talks about chatting with Saki, a childhood friend, who seems worried about him. When asked if anything's wrong, he attributes her concern to dislike. She suggests that Saki's behavior might be an instinctive reaction, and he asks her to stop teasing him. She offers to put in a good word for him and speculates that Haruki must be happy to reconnect with her, likely having many stories to share. He reflects on how little he knows about Haruki, noting her talent for dioramas and other aspects of her personality. He wonders if having a smartphone would help him understand her better, considering there might be more to her personality that he's unaware of. With umbrella in hand, he visits the vegetable garden where Midake-san is already working. He observes that the crops appear to be thriving and suggests that some are likely ready to be picked. She smiles, mentioning that the zucchinis have grown quite large. He decides it's time to harvest and requests the use of pruning shears in a bag if she has one available. She agrees and offers a plastic bag. As they collect the vegetables, she proposes that they split the harvest. He accepts her offer with gratitude. She thanks him for his assistance, which allowed her to enjoy the harvest. He humbly declines the praise, thanking her instead. She smiles and asks for his email address in case she needs to reach out to him about gardening or other topics. She guarantees him that she won't impose on him too much. He apologizes with a gloomy face, which puts her in an uncomfortable position. She tries to diffuse the tension by saying she comprehends the situation. He explains that his apology stems from not having a phone, having relocated from a remote area with no coverage. She understands and seizes the moment to introduce herself properly, and he reciprocates with his own introduction. He commits to sharing his contact information once he acquires a phone. She smiles and says she'll be looking forward to it, framing it as an agreement, which he confirms. As their conversation concludes, she heads off, and he proceeds to class, carrying a bag of freshly gathered produce. As Hayato enters the classroom, drenched from the rain, Mori teases him with a playful jab. "Good morning," splashing his splash face. Hayato tells Mori to stop. Mori asks about the bag's contents, and Hayato replies it's vegetables. Haruki notices Hayato's wet clothes and offers him a handkerchief, concerned he'll catch a cold. Hayato declines, but she insists on drying him off, prompting a surprise reaction from their classmates. Eventually, Hayato thanks her for the help and promises to return the handkerchief after washing it. She says it's okay if it's unwashed, but Hayato insists on washing it first. As she pulls out her phone, she suggests exchanging contact information to facilitate the return of the handkerchief. However, he reveals that he doesn't own a smartphone, prompting her to feign disappointment and apologize for asking too much. The classmates observing the exchange are stunned, surprised that he's hesitant to share his contact details with her. Mori intervenes, explaining to the classmates that Hayato doesn't have a phone and asks to have a private conversation with him. Hayato clarifies that it's not about being secretive, but rather a genuine lack of a phone. Haruki finds the situation entertaining, watching with amusement as the classmates' expressions change from surprise to curiosity. As they engage in a video game together, Haruki playfully teases him about being phoneless, highlighting the unusual nature of his situation. He acknowledges her point, referencing his past experiences and her popularity among their peers. They become fully absorbed in the game, their competitive spirits ignited. During a brief pause in the game, Haruki notices the bag of vegetables beside him. She inquires about the contents, and he explains that he received them as a thank you gift from Midake. He offers her a zucchini, and she comments on the quantity, suggesting that he probably can't consume them all by himself. She asks him curiously about his phoneless status, wondering if it's due to some family rule. He explains that it's not the case, mentioning his sister's constant phone use. He invites her to visit, saying his sister would love to meet her. She agrees, and they briefly discuss potential plans. Returning to the topic of phones, she presses him for an explanation. He hesitates, then reveals his struggle with choosing a phone due to the numerous options available. She bursts into laughter, amused by his dilemma. He jokes that his brain is indeed overwhelmed. She suggests they go phone shopping together, offering to help him pick out a suitable phone. He considers it for a moment before agreeing, appreciating her willingness to assist him. The plan is set, and they look forward to their outing. In the evening, Hayato's sister requests ice cream, but when he ignores her, she tugs on his shirt and asks him to accompany her to the convenience store at night instead. He becomes surprised, realizing that she sees something special in visiting the convenience store late at night, given that most local shops close early. She asks him to join her on the trip, and after some thought, he agrees, thinking it might be a unique experience. His sister becomes overly excited and worries about what to wear, and he suggests she look up some ideas online. As they walk to the convenience store, he comments on the bright lights that stay on all night, and she replies that the illumination makes it impossible to see the stars. He notices her outfit and inquires about it, and she explains that she dressed up to avoid looking out of place. When they arrive at the store, they both feel a bit apprehensive, intimidated by the bright lights and crowd. His sister nudges him to go inside first. Just then, Haruki appears, seemingly by coincidence, and asks Hayato if he's there to go shopping too. Hayato asks Haruki if she's planning to go into the store. Haruki notices his sister and comments that Hayato has a cute girlfriend with him, which catches both Hayato and his sister off guard. Kirishima Hayato quickly intervenes, clarifying that Haruki must have misinterpreted the situation. Haruki chuckles, teasing Hayato about his blushing. Himeko looks surprised, asking if Hayato and Haruki know each other. Haruki explains that they're classmates who sit next to each other, implying she might know him better than others might. Hio confirms this and introduces the two girls to each other. As they gather at Hayato's place, their initial surprise gives way to excitement. The atmosphere becomes lively as they sit down to enjoy a meal together. Haruki raves about the food, jokingly saying she'd hate to admit how good it is. Himeko smiles knowingly, attributing her own lack of culinary skills to her brother's dominance in the kitchen. Haruki nods in understanding, and Hayato chimes in, suggesting that Haruki should learn from his sister's cooking expertise. Earlier, Himeko had invited Haruki over after they picked up some convenience store bento, and now they're enjoying the fruits of Hayato's labor. After dinner, Haruki teases Himeko, joking that if she gains weight, it'll be Hayato's fault due to his irresistible cooking. Himeko playfully agrees, calling Hayato the enemy of women due to his dishes that pair perfectly with rice. The conversation takes a lighthearted turn as Haruki comments on Himeko's appearance, saying she's quite a looker now. Himeko reveals she didn't recognize Haruki at first and jokes about being in camouflage mode. She teases that Hayato initially thought Haruki was a guy and shares that Hayato joked about Haruki evolving from a monkey to a gorilla. Hayato tries to escape the conversation by offering to wash the dishes, but Haruki approaches him with a mock-angry expression. Himeko can't help but laugh at the scene, and when Haruki asks why she's laughing, Himeko replies that Hayato wasn't entirely wrong about Haruki's unchanged personality. The playful banter between them creates a warm and lively atmosphere, showcasing their easy camaraderie. Haruki mentions she saw Hayato's reaction, and Himeko suggests exchanging contact info, teasing that she's a civilized person with a smartphone, unlike her brother. Haruki agrees, noting she knew him was unusual for not having a phone, which prompts Himeko to playfully ask Haruki to repeat her comment about Hayato. As they continue their conversation, he heads off to handle the dishes, leaving the girls to chat. When Haruki checks the time, she realizes it's getting late and thanks the siblings for the evening, expressing her gratitude. Before parting ways, she asks Himeko about their parents, and she mentions they're working late, which leads to the girls exchanging contacts. Just as Haruki is about to leave, Hayato offers to walk her home, prompting Himeko to make a lighthearted comment about Haruki's cuteness. Haruki is taken aback by the remark and insists she can get home quickly on her own, telling Hayato he doesn't need to escort her. As they step out, he asks if she's sure she can manage on her own, but it's clear he's looking for an excuse to spend more time with her. She thinks to herself that he keeps finding ways to make her owe him favors. Their walk is filled with casual conversation, and she comments that his sister is really cute. He raises an eyebrow, asking if she's serious, and admits he can't quite see it himself. She replies that it's nice, and she'd love to have a sibling like that. He chuckles and asks if she's really being sincere, before sharing some of his sister's quirks, like sleeping in late, acting tough, and being selfish. He also mentions that his sister hogs the TV and never gives it to him. She laughs, saying she can easily imagine his sister's personality, which sounds familiar to her own experiences. As they continue chatting, they arrive at her place. Standing at the door, she reflects on the sibling dynamic between him and his sister, mentioning that they seem to have a great relationship, and she might be a bit jealous. She reveals she's an only child, and with a smile, says goodbye before heading inside. As she disappears behind the door, he can't help but notice the warm conversation they shared, feeling a sense of connection that lingers even after they parted ways. The following morning, he attempts to rouse his sister from slumber, but she's deeply entrenched in sleep. He eventually coaxes her out of bed, and she hastily prepares for school. She grumbles to him about her disheveled hair, rumbling stomach, and sweaty state. He reminds her that he cautioned her about staying up late, but she didn't heed the warning. They both scramble to arrive at school punctually. Upon arrival, a classmate comments on his tardiness. He responds with a touch of irritation, mentioning that his sister is also struggling to get ready in the mornings. Mori inquires about his sibling, asking about her age. He replies that she's a year younger and in the third year of middle school. As he glances over, he notices Haruki surrounded by concerned peers. They're asking if she's all right and if something has happened. She explains that she didn't get sufficient rest the previous night. He suspects that she might have been chatting with his sister until late. The boys nearby begin teasing Haruki, saying she didn't sleep last night and now she's beaming. One of them jokes that the new student must have gotten her contact info and she's enamored. He overhears the conversation and notices her somber expression, feeling a sense of obligation towards her. He attempts to lighten the mood, commenting that she looks silly when staring at her phone, and playfully asks if she's got a new girlfriend. She grasps his implication and flashes a knowing glance as he winks, playfully suggesting she might be riding an emotional wave due to a newfound friendship or a long overdue reunion. She pulls out her phone to show them a snapshot of herself and Himeko, explaining that they hadn't laid eyes on each other since childhood, which led to an extended conversation. The group starts buzzing about the photo, admiring Himeko's charm and inquiring about her school. Meanwhile, she catches his eye and expresses her gratitude for his timely intervention. Later in the storage room, she gives him a reassuring tap on the back and thanks him again. He advises her to relax. He notices her bag and inquires about the contents. She rummages through it and produces small plush toys without covers, describing them as her nude cushion collection. She explains that she picked them up at the 100 yen store, where they curiously cost 200 yen each, and offers him one. He raises an eyebrow, amused, and questions the pricing logic. Then, the penny drops and he gets the pun about money. She winks and playfully reminds him that she's still in his debt. She mentions she has a tiny ask and hesitantly requests something from him. He seeks clarification, and she wonders if he really wants her to be more specific. She flushed and admitted she was running late for school and didn't have time to pack lunch. He hands her a meal container and offers to share his utensils if she needs them. She declines, mentioning she has spare ones from the convenience store. When she opens the container, she's impressed by the food and asks if he cooked it all. He replies that he prepared a batch the previous day and stored some in the freezer. He recalls her mentioning her solo family situation the night before, and her expression now seems distinct. He teases her about her reaction, asking what's with the frozen food face. She looks flabbergasted and says she's speechless. He jokes that she must have been buzzing from her conversation with his sister the night before. She responds by complimenting his sister's expertise in fashion labels and beauty products. She claims to know nothing about the situation, and it's clear she's on the verge of getting scolded. He teases her, suggesting she's just trying to fit in with the crowd and that her act of innocence might not be entirely genuine. He adds that she's merely playing the role of a good girl, implying that there's more to her than meets the eye. However, when he gazes at her face, he senses that something isn't quite right. Her expression seems off, and he can't quite put his finger on what's bothering him. Memories of the Haruki he knows flood his mind, someone who loves to play pranks, is bursting with energy, and radiates a vibrant aura. He recalls how she would always be the life of the party, full of enthusiasm and joy. But the person in front of him now seems different, subdued in a way that doesn't quite fit. Concerned, he wonders what's going on and whether she's okay. He reaches out, placing a gentle hand on her head, silently reassuring himself that he's there for her if anything's wrong. She startles, asking what he's doing, her voice laced with surprise and a hint of amusement. But then her expression softens into a smile, and she teases that he's changed, seeming more mischievous now. She chuckles warmly, and he can't help but feel a sense of relief that she's okay. In class, she discreetly passes him a note inviting him to her place to thank him for his help. He looks puzzled and writes back, asking if she had a disagreement with his sister. She replies that his sister scolded her for not owning a casual skirt. He says it sounds like his sister, but asks if that's a problem. She mentions that his sister wants to visit her home to inspect her belongings and wonders if someone like her could have a girly conversation with his sister. He jokes that discussing BBQ tips would likely get her fired up. She looks irritated, saying he knows her too well, and demands to know what trick he's talking about. Just as she's about to press for more, she stands up, and the teacher asks if she's okay. As he strolls down the corridor, he catches snippets of a conversation between a group of boys who are intrigued by a girl. They're trying to figure out which school she attends and can't help but notice her charm. They speculate about her love life, joking about who her boyfriend might be. Just then, Himiko spots Haruki and swiftly grabs her hand, and they make a quick dash away from the school. Meanwhile, Hayato arrives at Haruki's residence, feeling the heat outside. As he's about to ring the bell, the door opens and Haruki rushes out, with Himiko hot on her heels. Haruki accidentally bumps into Hayato, who catches her. She looks up at him, her face twisted in anger, and demands to know why he's betrayed her. Hayato is caught off guard, assuring her that he's clueless about what's going on and telling her to calm down. Himiko appears, instructing her brother to bring Haruki back inside. Haruki's emotions spill over, and she begs to be spared. Once inside, Hayato's eyes scan her room, taking in the scattered clothes, and he falls into a thoughtful silence. His sister solicits his opinion on Haruki's outfits, which are decidedly lacking in style and flair. He concurs, suggesting they're perhaps a bit too extreme. Haruki's taken aback by his blunt assessment. Himiko describes Haruki's wardrobe as somber, dull, and unremarkable, picking up a shirt to highlight the wear and tear. She asks if the garment fits properly, and Hayato chimes in, noting that her clothes seem rugged and reminiscent of her childhood style. Himiko mentions that Haruki's previous outfit was a notable improvement, and he agrees. As they sit, Himiko offers Haruki a comforting hug, reassuring her that everything will be all right. With a gentle smile, she admits she wouldn't want to be seen with Haruki in her current attire, but promises not to judge her harshly. Haruki, however, feels deflated, wondering if she's truly that unappealing. Himiko whispers something to Haruki, and they exchange a smile with Hayato if she finds it interesting, and as they sit together, Hayato is transported back to their childhood games of make-believe. Himiko mentions that her throat must be dry from talking, and Haruki offers to prepare some tea. As she heads to the kitchen, Himeko reminds her brother that despite Haruki's tough exterior, she's still a girl and deserves kindness. She encourages he to lend a hand. He follows her to the kitchen and asks if she needs help, but he's taken aback by the stark emptiness and dust-covered surfaces. Haruki looks at him, her expression shifting from confusion to composure, and she attempts to speak, but the words won't come. He reflects on the fact that he's never seen anyone else at the house besides Haruki, and he gets the sense that the place has been deserted for a long time. He concludes that she has been living by herself. He takes her hand and leads her out of the kitchen, and she asks where they're going. His sister notices the situation and asks what's happening. He suggests they swing by the market on their way home. His sister understands and says she'll pack up quickly. Haruki asks for change clothes, but Himeko advises her to stay in uniform for the moment. After visiting the market and buying some essentials, they return home. In the kitchen, he begins preparing vegetables, asking his sister to mince the garlic and ginger. Himeko asks Haruki to help with a simple task, fetching a bowl, which makes her feel more at ease and relax. As they sit down to eat, his sister attempts to take a bite while the food is still steaming hot, and his brother advises her to slow down. He encourages Haruki to dig in, and she cautiously tries some, wincing at the heat. Despite this, she declares it delicious. As they enjoy their meal together, he mentions that dinner is typically a quiet affair between just the two of them. He invites Haruki to join them every day, which seems to catch her off guard. She looks thoughtful, asking why he's extending the invitation. He replies that it's because she's Haruki and they're friends. Haruki's eyes well up with tears, but she smiles and accepts the invitation. She asks if she owes him for his kindness, and he tells her not to think of it as a debt. With tears still shining in her eyes, she asks him to make a promise. As they make their promise, Himeko looks on, pleased to see the closeness between the two. The next day at school, Himeko appears troubled, and her friend Honka notices she's taking deep breaths. Honka asks if everything is okay, and Himeko admits that something's bothering her. Honka inquires if it's something like the stress caused by a TV show's airdate change. Himeko mentions she used to get worked up about missing episodes, but has since moved on. Honka makes another guess, comparing it to the unease she felt when a utility pole was suddenly removed. Himeko says she's gotten used to such changes. Honoka continues to speculate, but Himeko dismisses each guess. Frustrated, Himeko snaps at Honoka, telling her she's not some rural simpleton. Honoka chuckles and asks if something unexpected happened to surprise her again. Himeko shares with her friend that her brother's long-lost friend has undergone a significant transformation, and it's leaving her with mixed emotions. Her friend inquires if Himeko had romantic feelings for Haruki. Himeko pauses before confessing that she might have had feelings for her in the past. Her friend urges Himeko not to regret not expressing her emotions and encourages her to be open with Haruki. Himeko wonders why her friend didn't bring this up earlier. She recalls a conversation where someone mentioned wanting to spend more time with Haruki and her brother. With renewed enthusiasm, Himeko decides to make a conscious effort to bond with Haruki and become good friends. She's optimistic about their potential friendship and declares that they'll be incredibly close. Her friend is delighted by Himeko's determination and feels happy for her. Himeko bursts into the house, beaming with excitement, and calls out for ice cream. She spots Haruki and warmly welcomes her. As they hang out, Haruki gushes about a trendy manga series that's been adapted into an anime and invites Himeko to read it with her. As they dive into the manga, Himeko asks for the next installment, and Haruki playfully teases her about being addicted. Just then, Hayato chimes in, announcing that dinner is ready. The girls join him at the table. After dinner, Himeko asks her brother if she can spend time with Haruki on Saturday. Haruki mentions she's promised to help Hayato buy a new phone. Himeko suggests they can do that on Sunday instead. With a bright smile, Himeko takes Haruki's hand and invites her on a special outing, casually referring to it as a date. Haruki's eyes widen in surprise at the word date. Himeko mentions that Haruki frequently spends time with her brother, recalling their past experiences together. Haruki clarifies that those were just casual get-togethers. She then asks Hayato why he can't join them, suggesting it would be more enjoyable with all three. Himeko shares their plan: a shopping trip to choose clothes for Haruki. Haruki looks anxious, glancing at Hayato, but he skillfully bails out, saying it's time to clean up. Himeko's face falls, but she reassures Haruki that she wants to bond over fashion and conversation, hoping to rekindle their childhood closeness. Haruki's expression softens, and she squeezes Himeko's hand, agreeing to the outing. Himeko smiles, offering to lend Haruki some stylish outfits for their date. Haruki is surprised by the plan. The next morning, Himeko dresses up and shows her outfit to her brother, asking if it looks too immature. He gives her a brief compliment, but she wants a more detailed opinion. Checking the time, she decides to go ahead with her current look, thinking that Haruki, being older, will have a better style sense anyway. Her brother mentions it's still 9 o'clock, but Himeko smiles, saying she needs to pick Haruki up and help her get dressed, which will take a while. Following Himeko's departure, he views a hospital admission guide and proceeds to the hospital. Upon entering the room, his mother greets him warmly with a radiant smile. She presents him with some fruit, explaining she's peeling them as part of her therapeutic routine, but has prepared a considerable amount. He accepts her offer, but is astonished by the abundance and inquires if she'll be able to finish them all. His mother assures him that if she can't consume them, his father will indulge in the remainder. He asks about her well-being, and she shares that the medical procedure was successful, although she's still experiencing some sensory dullness in her fingertips. She mentions she'll likely be relocated to the rehabilitation unit soon. Then she inquires about Himeko, and he updates her that his sister is in high spirits, eager to spend time with Haruki. His mother seems delighted and content upon hearing this news. He informs his mother that it's time for him to leave, but she encourages him to calm down. As he exits her room, he notices Midake standing nearby. He admires the flowers and comments on their charming arrangement. Sitting down beside her, he asks how she managed to arrange the flowers so compactly, noting that even different types of blooms look harmonious when grouped together. Mitaka responds with some nervousness, attributing the arrangement to careful pruning, suggesting that the cut flowers look appealing in this configuration. He praises her, saying she's remarkably talented. As he gazes at her, he thinks to himself that she bears a resemblance to a sheep. Suddenly, a bottle flies towards him, and he catches it with a start. An elderly man emerges from a nearby room, visibly upset, and demands to know what Hayato is doing to his granddaughter. The elderly man reprimanded Hayato, believing he had upset Midake, and tried to hit him with his cane. Midake intervened, restraining her grandfather to prevent him from striking Hayato. The old man's anger slowly dissipated as the other seniors in the area calmed him down, one of them advising him not to be upset if his granddaughter chose to distance herself. After recognizing his error, the old man apologized to Hayato and inquired if he was indeed the young man who had been instructing Midake on vegetables. He expressed gratitude to Hayato, noting that Midake's recent happiness was likely due to his influence. Nearby, one senior whispered to another that the old man had been quietly thankful to Hayato. The old man asked Hayato about being a new student, and with a serious look, questioned why he had been talking to his granddaughter. He admitted that Midake was charming, even calling her angelic, and asked if Hayato was interested in her romantically. Trying to ease the tension, Hayato nervously said that Midake reminded him of someone from his past, which made it hard for him to ignore her. Just then, Midake entered the room, asked what was going on, and scolded her grandfather for being too harsh with Hayato. She intervenes, pulling Hayato out of the room filled with elderly men. As they exit, she realizes she is still holding Hayato's hand and quickly apologizes, releasing her grip. He comments that her grandfather seems to care for her deeply. Midake agrees, and he apologizes to her. She reassures him that he has nothing to apologize for, saying it is her grandfather who owes him an apology. He brushes it off, saying everything is fine. As she is about to leave, he stops her and asks if he can visit the flower bed again. Her face lights up with a warm smile, and she tells him he can visit any time. Her smile is bright as the flowers. As night falls, his sister walks in the door and greets him warmly. He asks about Haruki's plans, and she shares that Haruki is too exhausted to join them for dinner that evening. Catching sight of the curry, she inquires about it, and he explains that he is cooking extra portions for the following day. After reminding him to notify her when dinner is served, she heads to her room. As she reflects on the day's events, she remembers Haruki's excitement about shopping and ponders the shift from her previous hesitation to her current enthusiasm. She questions Haruki about this change, and Haruki responds that she tends to dive headfirst into things she's decided on. Haruki also hints that this might result in a delightful surprise for Hayato. With high spirits, they begin their shopping adventure. Himeko's thoughts turn to the situation, and she smiles, knowing she is putting in effort for Hayato's sake. Her phone buzzes with a message notification from her friend, who inquires about her day. She shares that she spent the day watching train videos. Himeko reminds her friend to focus on studying for their upcoming final exams and mentions that she's gone shopping with Haruki, buying things for her. Himeko then recalls Saki's thoughts about Haruki and is surprised when Saki is shocked by Haruki's picture. Himeko contacts Saki, who becomes melancholic upon realizing Haruki's beauty. Saki asks Himeko why she used to describe Haruki as gorilla-like. Himeko clarifies that she meant Haruki's carefree nature around her brother, just like in the past. Saki responds loudly, discussing her plans for summer holidays and warning Himeko not to mention the predatory nature of high school boys. Just then, Hayato enters the room, announcing that dinner is ready. Himeko apologizes to Saki, explaining that her brother is calling her for dinner. The following day, Hayato gets ready to step out wearing a hat. Himeko remarks that the straw hat isn't his style, and he responds that the sun is strong. She notes that the city offers plenty of shade and indoor spots where he can escape the heat, unlike their hometown's open fields. She playfully criticizes his outfit, saying he looks like a groundskeeper rather than a tech buyer. He asks her to accompany him, but she declines, having already gone shopping with Haruki. She mentions that she's looking forward to showing off her new dress to him, but she wants to set up a dramatic reveal, which requires more than just standing in front of their house. As a parting note, she reminds him to pick up the peppers. After reviewing the documents, he notes that they're from his guardian's office and his father's workplace. She reminds him that the papers require stamping after printing. Then she asks if he's okay with sharing the same network provider as her. He inquires about the term network provider, and she clarifies that she's talking about the mobile phone company. He confesses he's not familiar with the terminology, and feeling a bit embarrassed, he apologizes for the confusion. As he looks at the TV, he asks about the program she's watching. She replies that it's a TV series titled 10 Years of Loneliness, and mentions that a friend told her it's a captivating show. She also mentions some personal details about the lead actress, including her marital history and romantic relationships. He cautions her to prioritize her studies and maintain a balanced lifestyle. As he arrives at the meeting spot, he becomes uncertain about the direction he's heading. Checking his watch, he realizes he's behind schedule and thinks he's racked up another debt of time to her. Just then, she spots him, but a group of guys nearby start making remarks about her, suggesting she ditch him and join them instead. She swiftly steers him away from the scene. Once they're at a safe distance, she scowls and tells him that she had intended to surprise him. But those guys ruin the moment with their unwanted advances. He laughs and apologizes, explaining that the station's vastness caused him to get turned around. She jokes about the usefulness of a smartphone in such situations, and he concedes the point. She shoots him a playful glare, asking if her outfit has caught his attention. He quickly brushes off the suggestion. Noticing her appearance, he comments on her makeup. She reveals that it's her first time trying it out, and she went all out with her look. She showcases her attire and seeks his feedback. He praises her, saying she appears charming and lovely in the outfit. She playfully quizzes him, asking if he's always so perceptive. He grins, implying that she chose the outfit with him in mind. She confirms his suspicion, feeling slightly embarrassed. Afterward, they reach the mall and acquire a new phone. He expresses gratitude for her assistance, recognizing that he couldn't have done it without her. She inquires about his decision to get the same model as hers, pointing out the variety of alternatives. He justifies his choice by saying it'll be convenient to ask her for guidance when needed. She lightheartedly proposes that he could get the same model as his sisters, but he clarifies that it's awkward to ask his sister for help due to their sibling dynamic. She claims not to grasp his reasoning. As they stroll, she has to quicken her pace to match his stride. Noticing this, he apologizes and asks if he's moving too swiftly. Observing her footwear, he wonders if it's causing her difficulty. She explains that the dress is brief and the material is delicate, making her feel exposed, particularly when she bends down. He acknowledges her discomfort, and she shoots him a mock-irritated look, jesting about the supposed liberating effect of short skirts. She proposes that it's only fair for him to experience similar feelings, and jokingly suggests he wear a similar outfit to understand her better. He reacts with astonishment, calling her eccentric and saying it wouldn't be a good fit for him. She playfully remarks that as Himiko's brother, he'd pull it off, her eyes glinting with amusement as she offers to become his fashion advisor. She compares the situation to Himiko's feelings, making him feel uneasy. He tells her that her gaze is intimidating, and she finds this hilarious, bursting into laughter. Later, she inquires about his plans, and he looks around, marveling at the extensive shopping area. She points out the practicality of having a smartphone in such a situation, and he concurs. She comments on the enormity of the 100 yen shop, and he asks if she's new to this area. She replies that she's typically a homebody. He suggests they enter a store to explore, and they end up window shopping without purchasing anything. She laughs, noting that some aspects of his personality remain unchanged, reminiscing about their past visit to a candy shop where they had trouble deciding on treats and often settled for ramen and ice cream. She asks him to take her back to that shop. Later, she touches her stomach, mentioning her hunger. He proposes they get lunch, and she responds that she knows a great spot.
Here I am, know it's been a while.